What up? What up?
Here we are again.
Here we are again.
Another week on the grapevine.
Another week.
Just posted.
I'm your host, Chris Hughes. My co-host right here, Eric Kaiser. Down below me, Michael Cianfrocco. Here we go.
Doing?
Right. Sunday night, HVAC Grapevine, and our show tonight, we're going to be discussing, well, all kind of stuff, but mostly money and how to keep it in your pocket.
We like to keep it in our pocket.
All right, we've got a friend from he told me and I forgot. South Carolina, North Carolina?
South Carolina.
South Carolina?
We'll meet him here in a minute.
Yeah, we'll meet him here in a minute. But before we do that, let's talk about the past week.
It's a busy week.
It's a busy week. Eric, what did you learn this week? Tell us where we went this week, man.
A little bit. Well, let's see. So the week started out last Sunday morning at like 0300 in the morning. I think that's how you say that, right? 0300 in the morning.
Yep.
Because we had to be in our triathlon transition area at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah. We did that, though.
We did that. Chris and I and Chad Simpson from up at Simpson Salute in Ohio. We did that. We did a triathlon relay, half triathlon relay.
Yep.
Ironman 70.3. Did great. We come out 23rd place in the relay teams out of like 66 teams, I think.
Dude, and Eric, you look like you lost like 10 pounds all that exercise.
Yeah. Shrinking, right? He's
so what about you two? You too, Chris? What's going on? You guys are like slimming on me. I don't like this.
I looked at all the race photos earlier today, and I don't like any of them of myself. Look, there's one that, look, this is the face I'm making crossing the finish line. Which basically says, like, please let it stop.
That's the face I made when you said I'm going to do a triathlon. I was like, ooh.
Nothing about that looked encouraging. It looks like, man, that dude, just give that guy water and tell him to lay down.
Give him a case of water.
It's cool you guys did that, though. I'm really
it was good stuff.
It was a lot of fun. We did way better. I think all three of us beat the times that we predicted we were going to make. So
yeah, we did.
It was really,
awesome.
really cool.
I appreciate the phone call back, Chris. That's what I was calling you about. See how you guys are doing.
Sorry, man. Sorry.
That's all right.
But then we went to Building Science Summer Camp.
We did. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Got to hear some super fancy, over the top presenters who are the best in their field, I guess you'd say. Best way I could say that.
Let's talk about house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Joe Stiebrick's up in Westford, Mass. So for those of you who don't know, it's the official name is Westford Building Science Symposium, I think. But anyway, they call it Building Science Summer Camp. It is an invite-only event, so don't look for tickets for that unless you somehow get on the invite list.
Yeah, somehow somebody messed up and got my name on there. Luck of the draw, baby.
You and me both.
I unfollowed every post that you guys put up of that symposium.
Yeah,
unfollow. No thanks.
I did get to drink beer in his basement, though. I feel pretty proud about that one.
Yeah, what was going on with Dustin and the picture between you and Dustin? Man. What's going on?
There was no more room in the basement.
Yeah, there was no more room, but I had brought the booze downstairs. So, like, I was invited, because I had brought more booze for everybody. There's nowhere to sit. And Dustin's like, sticks his knee out. He's like, you can sit on my lap. And I was like, screw it, man.
Yeah. So all right. That's what that one was. Okay.
That was Dustin's knee going, oh!
Yeah. So, all right. So, let's get into this, guys. Let's bring on our guests and talk to them about taxes or,
finances,
wherever we go. So without further ado, Mr. Brian with Dark Horse. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Glad you could make it, man. And I'm going to go ahead and apologize for everything Michael's going to say.
All right. Good deal.
Or ask you.
I got water tonight.
So Brian, let's tell the audience, man. Tell them about yourself. What do you do? What are you looking to do? How long you been in the game? Where you located? Tell us your life history, man.
Yeah, awesome. So, my name is Brian McComas. I'm a tax CPA. I've got 16 years experience. I've been around the block a while. I've started at the small firm. I've been at the large firm, and now I'm at Dark Horse. It's a more modern firm, a based firm, so I can serve everyone across the country, and it's specifically set up for small businesses. And I've come to Dark Horse a few months ago. I started in May. I'm building my book from scratch. So I got there, I got 0 clients, and I'm in the process of building a book. And what's a little bit different about what I'm doing is I really want to heavily in the home service industry. And that's your HVAC guys, your plumbers, your roofers, your electricians, all the above, but really hitting it heavy in the HVAC industry. So that's the real quick background, right?
So
That's
man,
awesome.
tell us what's the reason behind the headhunt for the services community? Is it because we're just like making so much money?
Well, I mean, it's true. The HVAC guys are very profitable, and that's definitely got something to do with it. You got a lot of HVAC companies. I've seen some sales purchase agreements. The numbers are pretty high. I've seen some P&Ls. The numbers are healthy. They're looking good. But you also have, there's such a wide range of an HVAC company, right? You got the one-man shop. You've got, the shop that's they're doing good work, but are they looking at their business side of it? Are they really growing? Are their gross receipts going? I mean, and then you've got the guys that have scaled up that are just making tons of money because they've done something well and they've continued to do it well and continue to invest in the company correctly. But I think my kind of sweet spot is the $2.5 million agency that it's big enough. They're money, but it doesn't make sense for them maybe to really have a sophisticated accounting staff. So they're going to lean on someone outside of their office to really provide them some good advice and some good direction.
And what size company is your bread and butter, or you like to focus on?
I would say under $2.5 million.
Okay.
Any company really, but I mean, I think that sweet spot where, they're making money, they know what they're doing, but maybe they need a little bit of help, if they want to scale up and grow, or
Right.
maybe they're happy, they've got the checks coming in, but they really don't know how much the money they're making or why they're making this money.
Right.
And where they got an idea maybe where some waste is, you probably know, but I can show them some evidence and really provide some value to those guys.
Right.
So what's the let's ask this, because I know some HVAC companies that don't have CPAs, some of them do, some of them, they use an accountant. What's the benefit to an HVAC company, whether they're bigger or smaller, or whether they're a smaller person trying to scale, a smaller company trying to scale up? What benefit does a CPA bring to an HVAC company?
I think there's a tremendous amount of benefit. I like to preach to my prospects, my clients, we want to be tax efficient and audit proof. I want to give you first, a good peace of mind that we're doing everything correctly. And then, just kind of really looking into the opportunities, the strategies that we can implement to save you some cash, put money in your pocket, cash flow strategies, have you ever filed a tax return and your CPA tell you, oh, well, you owe $10,000 more than you thought you had to owe. That's a terrible day to have, right? You want to get that set up so there's no surprises. You don't want that call, and you shouldn't have that call because you should have the proper planning in place to where there are no surprises. So
I like it. I like the surprise when I was getting money back, right?
Yeah.
Having to pay more.
Yeah. I like that too, but then I hate when it's like you think you're going to get a lot, but you don't get as much as you thought you were going to get. Then you're like, dang, like something's got to go.
Ideally, you want to know how much you have to pay in April. I structure my engagements. I have a good tax planning meeting in the middle of the year, and then one towards the end of the year, December. And in that meeting, one of the points is to really hone in on your tax liability. So when April comes around, when we actually file the tax return, you know exactly what's going on. So if you do owe money, you know, you got 4 months to prepare. If you're getting a little bit of money back, you know, you've got 4 months to spend some money, I guess, or utilize it to the best of your company's ability, right?
So, Brian, you had made a comment that you guys are a modern CPA firm. What did you mean by a modern firm?
You know, the model at Dark Horse is really so much different than, I'll say, 99% of the CPA firms out there. And Dark Horse, you know, we call it a platform. You know, when I tell it to my dad, he says, "Oh, well, you're a franchise." We're certainly not a franchise, but Dark Horse's client was really the CPA. So they give us everything we need to operate our own little book inside of Dark Horse. A traditional firm, you know, it's owned by the partners, and you've got all these people working under you. All the money goes up to the top. Well, I mean, the short of it is, at Dark Horse, the CPA doing the work gets more of the cut than at maybe a large firm or another firm.
So it's more personal.
Correct.
Well, we're all working for the man in some way, shape, and form, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, a little example, at the old firm, I had a book of business of $1.5 million. Over here, I'm probably not going to touch a third of that. And that's going to free up my time and focus to really kind of help my clients. And it's the same story at all these firms, whether it's a huge firm or a small firm, everybody's at capacity. Everybody's maxed out. And, you know, it's hard to serve your clients correctly when you're so at capacity.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine, this is years ago, we were roommates, and I'll just go ahead and kind of tell you his little bit of history. He was a CPA. He worked for a super, super large firm, like one of the biggest in the country.
Right.
He had a nervous breakdown from the job. And the story goes like this. Basically, he was in the bathroom having a nervous breakdown at work and finally said, "The hell with it," walks out of the bathroom, takes his phone, throws it in the trash can, leaves, tells nobody he's leaving, and just drives straight home and said, "Done."
Wow.
Didn't come out of the, didn't show his face for quite a long time out of, like, he just said, "The hell with it." And this guy was he was in charge of a lot. I mean, he was bouncing to countries, handling accounts, maxed out, rarely showed up. Like, he would pop in and I'd be like, "Man, where you been?" He's like, "Well, I've been in, China or whatever for a month." And I'm like, "Well, are you staying?" He's like, "No, I'm here for a day and then I have to go back out." And I'm like, "Want to break a little bit?" Yeah, it was intense. It was an intense job. And it just got the best of him because he was, his boss, who kind of was like over that firm, he kind of knew a little bit about her. She had no life. She was just ordering everything off QVC and boxes that would just show up into the office every day. I mean, that was her life, and all he could see is like, that's going to be my life. And it just tore him up. So I get what you mean. Like, some of these places, man, I guess they'll just run you 90 miles an hour.
That reminds me of the Half-Baked movie where the guy was like, "Freak out, man. Who's coming with me?"
Yeah, that's about how it went down.
I mean, we all have our different stresses in each industry. We have our busy times. So, I mean, y'all can relate to that. But yeah, there's a lot on us, and there's a tremendous amount of turnover in this industry.
Really?
And so when you're working with these large firms, the person you're working with today or this year and may not be the same person you're working with the next year. And that's just kind of a product of the turnover that's going on right now.
Yeah. Interesting. So, man, let's can we pick your brain about some tax questions?
Sure. Yeah, guys, I'll do my best.
Let's get to the fun stuff. All right. So this is something that I think is interesting. And this is what I'll tell everybody listening. If you don't have a CPA, I would highly encourage getting one. Doesn't have to be Brian, but if you're looking for one, here's a guy. But anyway, CPAs have to constantly stay up with the times because the rules change every year, right? And if you're not in the game of knowing the rules, you're not going to keep up with the rules. For example, like you can buy a service truck this year, and the tax rules on how you depreciate that truck may change and become different the following year. Also, a tractor, also heavy equipment, also if you pave a road for your office. All of those things have radical different depreciation methods, and they change throughout year to year. And so a CPA has to stay up to speed on what can I depreciate for the purchase this year, and then run that depreciation value out. Like what makes the most sense. So like, let's say you had a really good year. Let's say you're up 50 grand and you want to blow this 50 grand on some stuff for the business to grow it. And let's say you're trying to depreciate that over in that year, right? And not make it a 5-year stretch, because you don't want 10,000 a year of depreciation. You want 50 in that first year. Well, if you decide to go buy a new service truck, 2,500 ton Chevrolet van, well, that ain't going to do it. That's going to do maybe $10,000, and that's it. You'll get 1 year. Now you'll get it over 5 years, but that's not what you're looking for. But if you went and brought a tractor, you could get the whole shebang. Even paving a road, I don't think you can do that all in 1 year. I don't know. It depends on how you classify that. You want to speak on that?
So when you buy like a blower door and a duct leakage tester.
Oh man,
like
you
they
write
spread it
off. Yeah.
They spread it out, or they just write it off?
Tools, I don't want to speak for Brian. This is probably your case, but I think tools they're all in the year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Typically, if it's under $2,500, we're going to expense it automatically.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity with the cars and the 179 expensing and the bonus depreciation and the roads and improvements, which are 15 years and qualify for that bonus depreciation. But another thing to consider is, it depends on, everyone has a different tax situation, right? But say you did buy 5 trucks in 1 year, if you want to take and say they all qualify for 100%, and we can take that huge deduction now, you're not going to pay tax this year just because you've got this huge truck expense. Well, the alternative is maybe spreading it out and having that expense go up against a higher income tax rate. So you want to look at that and say, which one's going to put more money in my pocket? I might get more money today, but over those 5 years, it might make more sense to spread it out over 5 years, because even with the present value of money, and you want to consider all of those factors. But generally, if you could take the depreciation deductions, most people do.
So I worked for a company once that had, just talking about trucks, they actually had a separate transportation company. And I don't know if that was because of the state rules. So like the transportation company owned the trucks, but we drove them. Is that generally because of state rules, or is that something that it's kind of a universal thing that places can do?
I haven't seen that a ton. I have seen it happen. And my assumption is the legal liability there. Not 100% sure what the actual motive there was, but I would assume that maybe legal liability has a lot to do with it.
Are you telling me your service truck was owned by another company than the company you worked for, and you drove like an independent service truck?
So the company that I worked for owned another company that owned all the service trucks. And I don't know, like
That's a good one. I'm gonna write that down.
It's an interesting thing, and I always wondered if there was like legal liability, or if it was a state thing, or if it was like there was a tax reason for that. So
I feel like Company A would have to own Company B to allow employees from Company B to drive Company A vehicles. Because if not, you're driving the vehicle of a different company at that point.
Right? Yeah, it's like you're not
That would be
even an
weird.
employee. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the standard practice. It may be some sort of legal liability issue they're trying to address there, maybe a state regulation. I'm not sure.
Hausch made a good point. He says they could be renting them to the company, which
they likely would be renting them to the company. But say something happened to this truck and he hit and killed somebody, now they can't reach the whole company and take all the company's money. It's just
That's crazy.
a bunch of trucks.
So we rent these trucks, don't sue me.
There's all kinds of different ways that those things can happen, but I didn't know if there was a tax reason. But I guess leasing them can be advantageous for a company to lease trucks versus owning trucks from a tax perspective?
I mean, I don't know. That's higher level business than I'm used to. We prefer to buy ours and then we could sell them, because once you depreciate them off your books, then you have that van and you can go sell it, and then you can just pocket the money because it's no longer like out of the company, from what I understand.
You can pocket that money, but you're going to pay income tax on the recapture of that depreciation.
True. Well, it depends on how you write the paperwork up.
I said it used to be that you used to do a like kind exchange for the vehicles, so everyone would just keep on trading them and trading them and trading them. But about 3 or 4 years ago, they took that ability away. So a lot of people are recognizing income when they're trading their vehicles now.
Yeah.
I
So
worked for such a big AC company that they didn't even have insurance. Like, I was like, "What do you mean you don't have insurance?" I was like,
Oh, they self-insured?
"They self-insured."
Oh,
I was like,
Yeah, the really big companies can afford to do that. They'll put a huge amount in a bank account somewhere.
And they'll get that big upfront deduction, and it'll just sit there.
Yeah.
that's-
And they
that's
can
why
earn
I
interest on that though too.
I was doing a contactor for like $800. They're like, "We're not making money on it." Putting it all in the bank for when you tip that
Ryan,
truck over on 95. You know.
can you tell us any crazy stories, man? Like, what has somebody asked you to do where you were like, "Nah, man, I can't do that."
Yeah, tell us a good one. Nobody's watching.
Yeah, give us the juicy. You know,
This
Yeah,
recorded or anything
I'll
on
probably
YouTube.
come up with something that, as I think of it. What comes to mind now is I talked to this one person, maybe a year or so ago, and they really wanted some planning in a specific area. And their area was alternative lifestyles. And this person had 3 legal wives.
oh
Yeah.
wow.
And I just, I've got no expertise on that. So I'll let that one pass. Of course, they also didn't have their financials.
That's
in
too
order.
many people to keep happy for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
So he
So-
was looking to do what now?
I don't know what they got in their head, but they wanted a specific advisor to alternative family lifestyles. And
Wow.
there's nothing out there for them. I don't know what bug they got in their head about that, but that was super interesting. I get a lot of
That's
kind of interesting leads that are a little out there. And we get fed leads at Dark Horse. They do a lot of search engine optimization marketing, and so they just load us up with leads, and
Yeah.
we get stuff like that, and we get some really sophisticated. We've got a cannabis department at Dark Horse, and we get some pretty profitable cannabis companies coming to us.
yeah. I heard they make some good money.
They can't deduct all the expenses.
So Brian, I will tell you the guys who do air conditioning work for the cannabis market are some pretty talented guys. Like, that's a pretty sophisticated HVAC setup right there.
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't write off the bongs though.
Humidity control's got to be perfection. Like everything matters, like way more than a house, right? To grow the ganja, man, you got to be on your game.
The humidity's got to be high on that, or what? What are you looking for?
I've
60%.
never.
It's
worked
got
for
to
a
be
growth farm,
got to
but
be well controlled.
yeah.
Control.
Yeah.
I think
It
well,
go up and down depending on where it's at in the growth cycle.
I was about to say the growth cycle changes. So like you have to go and edit the controls to control the different humidity maintained during a different growth cycle, and light changes. Like the color of the light changes during the growth
Yeah.
cycle.
Well,
Know anything about that.
the big thing is the humidity coming off the plants, but you also have to maintain all the heat coming off the lights, and you got to control the oxygen and the CO2 buildup in there, and there's a lot to it. So,
Which you're probably running constant airflow on that machine. You're not regulating. You're probably not dialing the fan up and down. It's continuous, right? That way, you
probably should be, but then you got to open and close outdoor air damp. Anyway, that's getting off on a tangent that we.
Well, Brian needs to know his client base, man. I'm trying to give Brian the need to knows. That way, when the cannabis HVAC guy shows up to his door, he could be like, "Man, You got constant airflow, constant humidity. You're going to change that cycle. You want to get that stuff right. And that dude's going to be like, damn, this is the CPA I need right here.
There you go. There you go. That, yeah, I don't have any of the cannabis clients, but we have a
Not
big
yet.
cannabis group. But no, not yet. But no, I mean, this
we've
is,
got a lot of potheads watching, so
I'm sure.
So, Brian, what about so companies? What should a company look for in a CPA if they're going to go out and select a CPA, whether they're talking to you or anybody else? Like, say a guy wants to go find a CPA. What are some of the things that they should really look for and questions they should ask that CPA? Because obviously you want to find one that's a good fit for you and is going to help your business.
no New York accent, right?
Right. I mean, I would say the number one thing is, how do they communicate, and are they accessible? Because you can have the smartest guy in the world, but if you can't get through to him, how valuable is that? You want someone that, you're going to have multiple touch points throughout the year. If you're paying your CPA to do the tax return and that's it, you're not getting any value out of there. You're leaving money on the table.
Right.
So you want to be
What's a small
stronger.
business looking at for like a one van man or
I
1 to
think,
5 van?
also, I'll tell you when I was in business with my father, we used to ask our CPA the same thing. We went through a couple CPAs till we nailed one down. And we used to ask this question and we would get so frustrated because we couldn't get a straight answer. We would say, do we need to buy another van? Right? It's 4 months before the end of the year. We projected our end of the year. We know what's going to happen. We know pretty much about how we're going to fall out. We go ask our CPA, hey, what should we buy? What should we do to prepare for the next year?
Yeah.
And most of them would be like, I don't know. Normally we would get no feedback.
Yeah.
And then the CPA that my dad ran with for many years, still my dad's CPA, he answered us and he goes, do you need a van? And we were like, well, kind of, we could use a van. We could use another van. He's like, are you going to buy a van in the next 4 months of the next year? And the answer is like, yes, we will. He goes, buy the van now. He goes, now you need to buy the van.
I agree. You want to be real careful not to let kind of the tax tail wag the dog. You business decisions first. But in that year in meeting, you should consider those things. How's your income tax going to change if you buy this van and if you don't buy the van? What does your cash flow look for that purpose too?
Yeah.
And that's one of the questions I'm always going to ask in those meetings. What large purchases do you come up? Are you going to buy a new truck?
Are you talking to any clients that are involved in a lot of this consolidation business going around, where these big, large HVAC corporations are buying up the small guys? Are you seeing that on your end?
I've seen a few purchase agreements early in the, in the old firm. We had a private equity group, and we were seeing a lot of transactions. I'm not sure if they're slowing down now with the cost of money being what it is, and it continues to rise.
Would you have any insight on something like this to say, if someone's preparing to sell, strategically, what should somebody do if they know they're going to sell within, like, say, a year's time? How would they position their business model?
The way I understand it is, you want to increase your profit. You want to increase your recurring revenue. But I actually have a call next week with the guy who markets HVAC businesses. And the reason I'm having that call is, I want to know those answers too. What's he looking at? Which type of these companies, and what are they doing to get the highest multiplier? So I can spread that on. I don't have the best answer for you today. But talk to me next week. I might have a little better answer.
So what I've heard is, from what I know, it's all about recurring revenue. Like, so people are chasing contracts, right, to build their client base up. That way, when they go put the cards on the table, they can say, this is my recurring revenue. Now, of course, money in the bank matters. But the ones purchasing the company, they're looking at that client base to say, does he have a recurring revenue client base? Which is like, if you're looking to sell, if you're project money, meaning you're just chasing jobs, doing big projects, you may have a huge company, project after project after project. But the kind of term for that is feed the beast, right? You always got to feed the beast to keep it going. You can make a lot of money doing project work like that. And if you're not looking to sell, might not be the way to go. I mean, might be the way to go. But if you're looking to sell, that's a hard sell, right? Because
Right.
if you were to purchase that company, the whole team has to keep feeding that beast to keep it going. And
That's
it's harder to feed
Same
that
thing I heard. I
than
heard
it
the
is
same
to
thing,
feed.
Chris.
Yeah.
Like I had a company down here. There was small, well, not small, a medium company, and the more maintenance agreements they had, the more
Yep.
they had on the books.
Well, that's what
got-
started the whole.
They got
maintenance
Susie in there doing maintenances twice a year. It built up more value.
Yep.
Is that kind
Everybody.
of what you see too, sir?
And I mean, that's what I've read. That's what I
Yeah.
picked up on. Like I said, I hope to talk to this guy this week and kind of really hone in on some of those answers. I would assume the labor, your employee base and turnover. I would think from my perspective, if I was buying a company, I would want to make sure that checks out. I've seen companies buy companies merely for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you've probably being doing work for the services community, man. We're a dying breed. We're special.
Oh, you're special, Chris.
Now, I was about to say maybe not my kind of special, but
I mean, are y'all seeing a lot of younger guys going into the industry? I mean, I feel like it probably
I
parallels.
can't even
accounting,
train
but-
them for free, man.
I don't know. I think I don't know. It's hard to judge because you can't see everything at one time. But I feel like I think it's onesies, twosies. I don't think it's not like this huge ramp profile where it's like all of a sudden statistics are growing and you're like, whoa, where did all these kids come into HVAC from?
Yeah.
No, but who has done a good job with that is the welders. The welders, man, are recruiting talent like crazy. Like every
Oh,
kid in my
really?
high school wants to be like, I'm gonna be a welder, and they do, and they come out making like $35 an hour, killing it.
Yeah.
And
The welders have done good. I'm not seeing as many as we need. I
no,
think would be my answer is
Not
we're
even
still
close.
short.
Yeah, even my son said he wanted to be a welder. I was like, "What do you want? You welder? What?"
yeah, I don't.
So they're-
My brother did it. He got the certificate, and then he went into a company, and his knuckles clawed up.
Yeah.
because he's holding this, and he knew he couldn't do it long term, so he had to find another route out.
Yeah,
That's me every morning I wake up.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
Oh,
holding
we've
my
got it.
gauges.
we've got a question from the audience here, Brian. Gentleman says, I work for a company, but I have to buy a lot of my own tools. Can I use that as a tax write-off?
Good question.
Unfortunately, the answer there is no. It used to be itemized deduction, right? I think 5 years ago they took away the employee expenses that you could write off.
Really?
Yeah.
Part of the
It wasn't
Green
a-
New deal.
It wasn't a super beneficial deduction, anyways, but it was something out there that some people were able to take advantage of.
Yeah. So like, as far as like, is that because they raised the minimum standard to like 28,000 or something like that? So they let a bunch of the small things off.
Yeah, that was part of it. That was certainly part of it. It was at the same time.
Hmm.
Just trying to make the tax returns a little bit simpler. And
Yeah.
they complicated a lot of things over here, made this thing simple. And you talk about the tax law changes. You're right; it changes every year. And a lot of things. I don't know if y'all been doing it. The pass-through entity election that allows you to pay the tax at the entity level. And I'm talking specifically about the state tax at the entity level. Louisiana, they've had it for probably about 5 years or so, maybe 3 or 4 years. But that's something that's relatively new that a lot of new states are doing that you probably should be taking advantage of. I mean, there's not a huge benefit there unless you're making a ton of money, but there is definitely some benefit there.
So Brian, what kind of air conditioner do you have in your house?
I got a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old, and I don't know which one of those are. I couldn't tell you.
Man, you got 2 air conditioners in your house?
Yeah, it's a split level, I guess.
You gotta be rich, bro.
Um,
That's rich people stuff right there. We're talking to a multi-million over here, guys.
What brand you got? You know what brand you got?
I have no idea. I know they're old and they're going to be replaced soon. My heat pump's so bad in the winter. I just get emergency heat, and I get the guy to come look at it, and he tells me it'll make it another year. And I'm just, I probably should have bought a new one a couple of years ago.
We gotta get you a better HVAC guy.
Yeah, man. We may know a guy.
Okay. Y'all come on down.
We know some people all over the place. We might
Right.
be able to hook you up somewhere.
And you know what?
Even House says you need a new HVAC guy.
Yeah. So you're in, what did we say, Carolina, North Carolina, South Carolina?
I'm in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah. So I mean, you said, did you know if you have furnaces or if you have? No, you said you're running on resistance heat, so you could definitely
He's got
go.
an air handler.
Yeah, man. So have you been digging in? Have you been digging into this heat pump movement? Have you heard about that?
Not really, no.
Right,
No,
man.
tell me about it.
Eric, fill him in. I know it's
Yeah.
you got the secret sauce.
And
Well-
let that dachshund in, man. Go get that guy. Let him in. Bring him on.
My
the show.
wife should be home soon, but I'm gonna let him in.
Yeah, man. Let's do that puppy dog.
Bring him on. We got to see him. So
I'm curious if you could shed some light on this whole tax, IRA money coming down the pipe, that kind of stuff.
So right
the
now,
Green New Deal.
so
Yeah.
right now there's a lot of movement going towards heat pumps. Now it sounds like you've already got them, but it's we'll say the electrification movement or decarbonization, depending on who you ask.
Right.
But it's a movement to go more towards heat pumps and away from fossil fuels as heating source in houses and buildings in general, realistically. So there's a lot of money coming down out of the IRA, which is the income or what's the word for that, Chris? The
Money coming down from the federal government.
the IRA, the IRA Federal Government Act, which was the income or
Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was also the AIM Act, which was the American Innovation in Manufacturing Act as well, which happened. So I get those two confused in the acronyms all the way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be, I don't know how much CPAs are going to do with that, but that's tax credits is my understanding. So how does the tax credit work, Brian?
Now, are we talking about like the energy efficient credits that we're putting energy efficient property into the home?
Yeah, you're putting energy efficiency, a minimum efficiency or higher piece of equipment in there that meets the standards in the Inflation Reduction Act.
Right. And there's a few different ones. The one I know of, the residential one, it's got like a $500 max out to it. And that's what most people are going to get, a $500 credit if they're buying these energy efficient heat pumps. And what happens, the individual will take their receipts, they'll take them and let their preparer know, and they'll file a special form as a 5690, and they'll file it on the individual term, and they'll get money. That tax credit amounts to money straight off of the tax bill. My wife's home.
You got a very determined dog right there.
I've got a 17-year-old dog downstairs that's just got so much anxiety. I think she's driving him nuts.
Oh wow,
What do you
man!
got over there? Is that a dachshund? Am I right?
No, he's like a. They sold us on him being a lab pit mix. He's not a lab pit mix. He's a little bit smaller than that, a little brown dog. We got a 17-year-old pit bull downstairs.
Pits are good. They're funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what that's a good thing for, and I know that I think there's a lot more than the 500 going to be coming down with a lot of this money coming out, but a lot of that is also going to depend on income credits, or the income of the individual putting this stuff in, which kind of brings me into like the question of, does an individual really need a CPA? Like if I'm going to do my taxes, or should I just talk to a tax professional about that? And what's really the difference between a CPA and a tax professional?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, if you just got a W-2, you don't need to go to a CPA and pay more than you need to. You should learn how to file your return yourself, or go to H&R Block or TurboTax, right?
TurboTax, man.
Yeah, and a lot of times, they've got the W-2 connected through ADP straight to TurboTax. It makes it real easy for you. I guess when your situation gets a little bit more complicated, you got some kids, you're paying for college, maybe you need to go to a tax professional. You really want to get a CPA involved. If you've got a rental, you got heavy investments, you got your own, you're sole proprietor, you got your own business going. As the situation gets more and more complicated, you probably want to bring in a CPA.
Gotcha. So where does kind of that line draw? What can a CPA do that a tax professional can't? Essentially, what's the difference between those two?
I mean, if you've got a good tax professional, I mean, they should be able to do anything that I can do. It just depends on what their experience is, what their expertise is. There's a designation. It's an EA. It's an enrolled agent that can file and sign tax returns, and they can be just as knowledgeable as a CPA. Maybe I jump through some more hoops to get to my license, but sometimes these EAs are really good, and maybe sometimes they're at a lower price point, which makes more sense. Sometimes you get what you pay for too. So I mean, it's a tough decision. I mean, like when I'm going to buy an HVAC, I don't know anything about HVAC. This guy could sell me on something, and I'm just got to kind of make a gut decision that this guy's trustworthy and pull the trigger, right? But if you're not getting regular communication, if you're not talking about different tax strategies, maybe you don't have a really great CPA or great advisor.
Brian, let me ask you a question. So like in the HVAC community, like if you told me right now, man, how do I know I'm not going to get screwed? How can I quickly build myself some awareness? Like me being an HVAC nerd, I could point you in like 10 different locations. I would say, watch this guy's video or read this guy's article, blah, blah, blah. And in like 24 hours, I would have you probably knowledgeable enough to cut through the, with your HVAC guy.
That's where I want to be, man. I've watched so many different videos on YouTube now. I'm trying to get, some pretty good knowledge in the HVAC industry, so I can know the language when I talk to my potential, HVAC guys.
So where would we go if we wanted to learn about how to cut through the crap with a CPA?
Right. Well, my experience on LinkedIn, and maybe mine's going to be different than yours is, but a lot of my connections on LinkedIn are professionals and a lot of CPAs and a lot of tax guys and financial advisors, and they're constantly putting out information there on different tax.
Is there like a podcast that's like, man, you got to listen to this podcast if you want to listen?
There's not one that I specifically listen to. The podcasts and guys that I listen to are more kind of directing to the CPA firm owner or the guy going out in their own business. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of guys that I'm plugged into.
So CPAs are more like air balance guys. They keep it really on a tight lip.
Yeah, man. They roll around in their cult. You know what I'm saying? Like, we run the world. We run the world's money.
Bro, I was
can't let you go enough because,
those air balance guys, I was asking the questions at the symposium. I'm like, what's going on with this? What's going on there? Like, I don't know, man. You're not in the club, bro.
I wish I had a great resource I could point you to. Brian McComas, CPA, connect you with him. But no, I don't have a great podcast.
I used to listen to this guy on YouTube. He said I shouldn't pay any taxes. I was like, wow, you going
TikTok? That's where you want to go. TikTok.
There you go.
Yes. Actually, speaking of TikTok, I was watching this video on Facebook through TikTok, some Reels junk, and a guy was like, if you got an office in your house, kind of like what I got, I do my work right here at the desk. He's like, you need to pay like $500 in rent every month, and then write that off and put like office on your door.
Let's not listen to TikTok or Facebook videos. Let's just make that a good rule of thumb.
I disagree though, man, because here's the thing. If you pay the money to yourself, you're going to still file, what I'm saying? Unless you have like, I guess, a C corporation, which I don't know why you would, but if you're sole proprietor, You'd be
Guys.
renting it from yourself. It's all going to be one tax.
Dude was super adamant about it. He's like, if you got an office in your own house, you got to put like office on the door, and then pay yourself.
There's a
rent.
lot of bad advice out there, but what you see on TikTok with paying yourself rent is the Augusta rule, which is legit. If you pay yourself, if you can accept rent for your house if you rent it less than 14 days, and they enacted this rule for all these people renting out their houses at the Masters. They pretty much gave them an out. You know, they rent their houses for so much money when the Masters comes in, and they're allowed to take in that money, and it's tax free. But the rental period has to be for less than 14 days for the year.
That's it, though. 14 days.
You can only get 14 days per year. You can't do 14 month 14. You know what that's all about, man. You know what started that? Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras? Okay.
Yeah. Mardi Gras. We are the blame for that. Because, that's a huge upset in the New Orleans area because St. Charles Street is super, super popular for Mardi Gras. That's like the place to be for uptown Mardi Gras. You know, like everybody goes there. And these houses, they sell for, I mean, if you have a house on St. Charles Street, you're going to pay at least $5 million for it plus. Well, these rich people basically started renting out their house. Like they would just go on a vacation and then they would rent out their house for, say, 7 days for Mardi Gras for bukus of money. We're talking megabucks that nearly pays for the rent for the whole year. I mean, if something gets tore up, they can bill it or get it fixed. They don't care. They literally got their $5 million
Paint the whole house again
covered for the year.
Cares?
Which was a huge upset to the hotel industry because you have tons of hotels that are downtown, which is right down from St. Charles Street, which is super popular during Mardi Gras. They pack up big time. Well, they started seeing a huge hit where the attendance of the hotels has went way down because everybody's renting houses now. And everybody's
doing that Airbnb too, right?
So, man, now that they know they can do tax-free for 7 days of Mardi Gras, that's a huge payday right there.
Yeah, a lot of beads, man. A lot of beads.
Dark Horse, we're bringing our company retreat to New Orleans here in a few months. So,
oh yeah.
So what it is, then you can only pay yourself up to 14 days of rent a year is what it comes down to. And even if you're renting, say, just a room out of your house.
That's correct. And a lot of these TikTok videos are around this specific strategy, and a lot of people do it. It can be legit. Documentation needs to be right, and you know the expense isn't that much. I mean, it's got to be the fair market value of the house.
Like, what am I going to save?
I was going to say, what's the most someone could rent something for 14 days?
Yeah,
this sounds like one of those rules that the super higher ups at Washington came up with to scratch each other's back.
It reminds me of you want to go out to lunch? Everything's on the business.
Yeah, right.
Oh, going here. I'm going to use, get gas and
that
everything.
seems like a huge tax shelter rule where a bunch of people sit at a round table like knights and figure out a way to scratch each other's back. Am I right? Yeah. Hey, next month it's on you. Next month it's on you.
Yeah.
We're living on your tab next month. That's what I would do. Oh, here's a question for you. Have you ever heard of a UTMA account? This is a UTMA account. It's essentially it's like a retirement account for your kids.
UTMA. No, I'm not familiar.
So I barely know a little bit about it. I have a friend who dibble dabbles with retirement very well. He's not professionally trained per se, but this guy's done amazing on his own. And he was telling me that I need to start a UTMA account for my kids. Because, there's this other account where you can use it for your child's like education, and there's another route for that. But the UTMA account, he said, is the way to go because it is a full-fledged like retirement account. But the money also could be used to education. But if they don't, it still can stay as a retirement account.
Well, I tell you that they're passing a new law, and starting in 24, you can move up to $35,000 of the money into that education account. The education account is the 529 plan into a Roth IRA, penalty free.
Oh,
so that's a huge, kind of a no brainer. If you're putting money investing in your kids' education, that gives you an awesome opportunity to move $35,000 into your kids' Roth.
So this would be money that you have been putting into, say, an college education fund, and your kid decides, hey, I don't want to go to college. I'm going to do something different. You don't lose that money. You can transfer it. That's a huge win.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's going to be kind of, I'm going to talk, we're going to bring that up in every tax planning meeting this year.
Yeah.
So all my,
yeah.
What I just did a quick search on the UTMA, and it looks like that's a way to essentially give a gift to your children, but you don't get tax. They don't have the tax burden on it.
Oh, you can gift your kids money. I don't know what it's up to right now, but I want to say it's up to 16,000, maybe 16.
Like a trust, right? A trust is better
that
for
you
that.
can give a kid. And if I'm not mistaken, each parent, like if
right, so yeah, you can get 32.
Yeah, you get 32,000 from your parents going straight to you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if they could do that for grandkids too, but if they can, you know what? I need to call my dad and find out.
So you don't have to pay taxes.
They can, yeah, they can.
When somebody passes, you don't have to pay taxes on something like over 32,000.
All right, so the lifetime exemption right now is up to like what, $15 million. So if you're worth less than $15 million, no, you don't have to pay taxes when you pass your assets.
Or are we talking about inheritance tax right now?
Right.
I meant a beneficiary, yeah.
So why does everybody move to Florida then? Like, what's the whole angle with moving to Florida to prepare that transition of inheritance tax?
I'm not sure on the inheritance tax side, but I mean, obviously there's no income tax. So you get some savings there versus South Carolina or Georgia or California. You see a lot of people moving from California to Texas these days.
Yeah, Austin's blowing up. Yeah, growing
like out of California, man.
Yeah, what's
the other TikTok strategy is to move to Puerto Rico for 181 days and not have to pay any income tax.
Nice.
Yeah, that's kind of like when you're in the military, if you're going to collect a really fat bonus, they'll ship you out of the country. It depends on your rank and who you are, but I have some friends who were like Navy SEALs, and when they would get like their $80,000 re-sign bonus, they would put them in deployment for a couple weeks, and they wouldn't bring them back until they got their bonus. Then they bring them back. You don't hear about that stuff, but that's what's really happening in the military when you're at a specific rank. You know what I'm saying? They're like, oh, you about to get that 80 grand? You want it tax free? Let's get you across the border for a little bit. Yep. That's a scratchback game right there.
I put most of my money in Panama in an account.
I put it in Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Nice.
You'd have put it in Bitcoin.
Video told me to.
If you'd have put it in Bitcoin 10 years ago, you might have been all right.
Yeah. I will be honest. I do have some money in a cryptocurrency, but it is a very specific one. I did a little bit of homework on it. It is a wild card, but if it comes through, man, you guys are all welcome to come hang out on my yacht.
Dogecoin? What do you
got? It's called Theta Coin.
Damn.
It's called Theta. I'll give you the
Mario Brother coins. That's what I got.
Yeah. Cha-ching. And House just said he puts his money in his ex-wife's pocket.
That's always an investment strategy that people take sometimes.
It's safe. It's safe in her pocket. You know what I mean? She
Stop
definitely
marrying them gold diggers, baby.
The returns aren't great on that one some days.
I was listening to this guy on YouTube, man, and the guy was like, what was he saying? He was saying that he was talking about taxes, right? And you know what? I don't even want to get into it, man. I almost made the whole episode.
You just gonna leave us hanging after such a build up like that,
man? Some crazy conspiracy theory stuff. I don't want to go off on.
Let's no. Let's not go down that road.
The algorithm.
No.
Gotta keep. We gotta keep us afloat.
Yeah.
The last 3 episodes were pretty racy,
No. Let's not even go down those roads. All right.
All right.
So,
So-
Brian, what else you got for us? Anything you want to say? What do you suggest for any last words here before we close this thing out?
I would just say, if you're not looking at your P&Ls monthly and looking at your gross profit per hour monthly, and making sure your financials monthly are on a good accrual based financials, I'd recommend let's implementing those kind of reviews, and really can affect your profitability in a big way, and that compounds. If you make $30,000 this year because you honed in on your profitability, it could be $40,000 the next year. It could be $80,000 the next year. I know a lot of guys that just chase the cash or watch the cash or just don't want to put the energy into it, but it really can,
It can sink you in a very short period of time.
right? Or provide, life-changing money over the life of your business.
So what about, say, a technician, they've been around a while, they've been in a truck, they think they're ready to go out on their own, they're ready to start their own business. What should that person be considering, and how quickly should they be talking to a CPA and really thinking about setting up their business strategies?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I'm super encouraging anyone to go out on their own and give it a shot. It takes a certain person, and you've got to be prepared. You got to have the know-how. It's not easy, but the rewards at the end of the day, I think, are worth it. But yeah, you've got to consider, putting a little bit of money aside so you can talk to a CPA and get some really good advice. I mean, there's a lot of advice out there that you can read and research for yourself. But yeah, as you're thinking about doing it, talk to a CPA, and you're going to need probably talk to an attorney as well. I mean, there's a cheap way to do it too, but why not do it right from the start? Make sure you've got all the strategies ready to go. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do in those first couple of years that can save you a ton of money.
So Brian, do
What
y'all
about
have
those
any?
small companies that have 5-10 guys and they want to send them off to like a training, like a NCI or something? Do they get like incentives for that? For like company paid training classes?
Do you mean
It's-
like is it write offable? Like can you
Yeah,
write?
you certainly get a tax deduction for those expenses. Yeah,
Yeah, education should probably be 100%.
absolutely.
Like tools. I was gonna say something. I'm trying to remember what I was gonna say.
I cut you off, man. I'm sorry.
I know. Thanks a lot, Mike. You just like stole my thunder, bro.
Whew, I had to jump in there.
All
I
right.
mean, that's a great question, because I think as a new business owner, a lot of business owners don't think about maybe all the deductions that they can take, and they're not really tracking all that stuff well, right? They're just thinking about cash flow, get more income. But
Yeah, they're thinking about the next install tomorrow.
right, they're
Exactly,
thinking about that
yeah.
next install, whether the equipment's going to come in. And for me, I think that's where a CPA can really help is to help them get their strategy set up, get their books set up, get set up. And I don't know, I'm assuming you probably recommend some kind of an accounting program or software as opposed to somebody doing it on paper these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I talked to a lot of new business owners this year, and I kind of have the all right, let's business owning 101 type meeting with them, and we're going to talk about entity structuring and just kind of best practices, record documentation, and what you can deduct, what we should be looking to deduct. When do we implement the entity structuring strategies, and that can be huge. I've got a new client that paid $350 last year to get her tax return done. She's going to pay just a little bit more to me, and I'm going to save her $15,000 this year. Just
Brian,
could
I
That's
give you?
awesome.
I'm gonna give you a piece of advice, man, and
Yeah.
then we're gonna close this show. Here's what I think you should do. What you just said was like really it tuned into my ears, and I was like, man, that's a slick marketing idea.
Yeah.
You should basically offer a class that says, new to business, here's your business 101. And then
There you
like they're brand new, they're like, I don't know what to do. And I would
Yeah.
like to get like the full brunt of like the 101. You should host those classes.
You know what?
Not on
A lot of the guys that are like in our circle, we're small businesses, right? And usually the wives handle the money side, and they kind of do a little bit of everything. So what you should do is like slogan and like, hey, You want to get rid of your wife? Hire me. I'll do the books. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a terrible idea, Mike.
Where's the